Ohio just became the landing strip for something that definitely does not belong on this planet. This viral footage is terrifying people across the country because it shows a craft the size of a football field moving silently over populated areas. Experts are scrambling to explain why the radar went dark the exact moment this thing appeared. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that this is not a drill. This is the moment everyone feared would happen. And the footage is the smoking gun that changes everything.
All right, you tell me what it is. Oh, what do we got?
Forbidden images of the Ohio visitor. This story takes us to New Boston, Ohio, where a local man named Thomas S. and his 17-year-old son, Christopher, captured what many are calling the most detailed footage of an alien ship ever recorded. And it was a typical night on October 24th, around 7 p.m., when the pair had just finished eating at a local restaurant. As they stepped outside, they saw something that froze them in their tracks. A massive, structural craft was slowly and silently creeping over the eastern hills. It was heading southwest, crossing right over the Scioto River toward the Kentucky border. Christopher didn't hesitate. He grabbed his phone and snapped a series of images that show the ship in stunning detail as it passed almost directly overhead. This is a key detail because, when you look at these photos, you can see the true structural characteristics of the ship. We are talking about rows of windows, chambers, and glowing lights that look like nothing a human would ever build. It looks magnificent and alien. And the features on this thing do not even make sense when you think about how a human pilot would use them. See, there is no way some John Doe was down here with a power drill constructing something this complex. For starters, the craft was eerily silent. It did not make a single hum or roar as it moved through the air. What most people do not realize is that the military appeared on the scene almost immediately. Just 5 minutes after the craft passed, 2 military helicopters came soaring overhead, going the exact same direction as the ship. The father and son were driving on Highway 52 at the time, heading the opposite way, so it was impossible for them to get their phones out again to catch the helicopters because of how fast they were moving. But here is the catch. As the ship was almost disappearing into the horizon, the footage shows 2 distinct flashes of light appearing on either side of the craft. These lights were not touching the ship, its Guy Elf, but they were flickering in the air around it. This matches a sighting from a few weeks ago where a triangular TR-3B style craft was caught hiding in the night sky. In that footage, the same weird lights were seen flashing on the outside of the craft. Nobody expected this to happen in such a small country town, but the evidence is now impossible to ignore. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that the world is watching Ohio right now. It is one more piece to the puzzle, and it proves that we have not been alone for quite some time. The crazy part is that while officials might try to say it is just a drone, the sheer size and silence of the object tell a different story. It looked like a city in the sky, drifting through the clouds without a care in the world. Thomas and Christopher did an amazing job keeping their hands steady to get this proof. A darker secret is buried in the sands of the American Southwest. A darker secret is buried in the sands of the American Southwest. Desert debris, defying science.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week.
The mystery in Ohio is a modern echo of a story that started nearly 80 years ago in a small desert town. If you go back to July of 1947, you will find the most famous event in the history of the unexplained.
We found a piece of metal about a 1.5 to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes. But the thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it, you couldn't dead it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was. Took pictures, of course. They had a whole flock of microphones there. They wanted me they wanted some comments from me, but I wasn't at liberty to do that. So all I could do is keep my mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who discussed or told the newspapers, the newsmen, what it was and to forget about it. It was nothing more than a weather observation balloon. Of course, which we both knew differently. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of, because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and in our air travel. This was nothing like that.
A rancher named William Mac Brazel was walking his property near Roswell, New Mexico, after a heavy thunderstorm. He found a massive field of debris that looked like nothing he had ever seen before. There were bits of metallic foil that you could crumple up in your hand, but they would instantly spring back to their original shape. There were also strange beams that had purple symbols on them. This is a key detail because those symbols have appeared in other sightings for decades. The military from Roswell Army Airfield came out to the ranch and collected everything. For starters, they actually told the truth for a few hours. They issued a press release saying they had captured a flying disc. The headlines the next morning were incredible. People thought the mystery was finally solved. But then, the government changed the story. They claimed it was just a weather balloon from a project called Mogul. Yeah, about that. Nobody believed the balloon story then, and nobody believes it now. Eyewitnesses like Major Jesse Marcel said the material was indestructible. You could not burn it with a lighter, and you could not cut it with a knife. It was lightweight, but stronger than any steel on Earth. And that is putting it lightly. The Roswell event became a symbol of government secrets. People claim that bodies were recovered from a second crash site nearby. They described small beings with large heads and gray skin. While the military tried to cover it up, the story only grew larger. It is not that simple, though, because Roswell was not the only sighting that summer. Just a few weeks earlier, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold was flying his plane near Mount Rainier in Washington. He saw 9 bright objects skipping across the sky like saucers on water. That is where the term flying saucer actually comes from. Arnold estimated they were moving at 1,200 miles per hour. Back in 1947, that was impossible. No human aircraft could go that fast without falling apart. These two events together created a wave of fear and curiosity that has never gone away. Basically, the summer of 1947 was the moment the world realized that the sky was full of secrets. What most people do not realize is that the Roswell debris was taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which just happens to be in Ohio. This connects the old mysteries directly to the new footage we are seeing today. Some people think the government has been studying this technology for 80 years and trying to build their own versions of it. But here is the catch. If they have the technology, why are these objects still appearing and acting in ways we cannot control? The Roswell case is the foundation of everything we know about the visitors. It showed us that they can crash, they can leave evidence, and they can be hidden by those in power. Every detail of that crash has been analyzed by thousands of researchers. They have looked at the flight paths, and the witness statements, and the classified documents. Hands down, it is the most important case in history. Even though the government released a report in the 90s saying the bodies were just crash test dummies, the timelines do not match. The dummies were not used until years after the Roswell crash. It is a classic move to confuse the public. The truth is that something hit the ground in New Mexico, and it changed the course of human history. And we went from dreaming about space to realizing that space was already here. The debris from that ranch was the first physical proof that we had visitors from another world. It was a wake-up call for the entire planet. And get this. Many of the people who saw the debris were told they would be put in jail if they ever talked about it. That kind of pressure only happens when there is something very important to hide. The Roswell mystery is still alive today because the questions have never been answered. It is a story of a rancher, a pilot, and a secret that was too big for the desert to hold. Massive lights are about to block out the stars over a major city. Mass sightings, no one explains.
What I'm looking at here is a light on South Mountain. You can see this light flickering over our mountain over here. Now we're looking at a light that's now appeared again. It's come out in a different place. Definitely far away. South Mountain. There's two of them. There, we finally hit pay dirt. Now we've got two of them in the sky on South Mountain. South Mountain. Figure this one out. There's a double. There's a third one. Hey, Sue?
While some sightings happen in lonely deserts, others happen right over the heads of thousands of people. On March 13, 1997, the city of Phoenix, Arizona, witnessed something that defied all logic. A massive V-shaped craft that was over a mile wide drifted slowly over the city. It was so big that it blocked out the stars as it passed. This was not a secret military jet. It was a silent giant that seemed to be put on a show for everyone below. People stood in their backyards and on their balconies, watching as the five lights moved in perfect formation. The governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington, initially joked about it. He even held a press conference with a staffer dressed as an alien. But years later, he admitted that he saw the craft himself, and that it was definitely not from this world. Of it. It proves that these objects are not afraid of big cities. They are willing to show themselves to thousands of people at once. And get this. The same type of object was seen over Rendlesham Forest in England in December of 1980. This is often called the Roswell of Britain. U.S. airmen stationed at a nearby base saw glowing lights in the woods. Yet when they went to investigate, they found a small, triangular craft sitting on the ground. One of the men, Jim Peniston, actually touched the craft. He said it was warm and had symbols etched into the side that felt like sandpaper. As soon as he touched it, he started seeing a series of ones and zeros in his head, which turned out to be a binary code. The craft then shot up into the trees and vanished. The next morning, they found physical evidence on the ground. There were 3 indentations where the landing gear had rested, and the radiation levels in the area were 10 times higher than normal. The commander of the base, Charles Halt, recorded his investigation on a handheld tape recorder.
We're hearing very strange sounds out of the farmers' barnyard animals. They're very, very active, making an awful lot of noise. I just saw a light out there. Wait, I guys photograph. Where? There it is. Oh, yeah, I see it too. What is it? We don't know, sir.
I was very skeptical. I found what had allegedly taken place hard to believe, and I was really going to debunk it, quite frankly. And as events unfolded, I became more and more concerned that there may be something to this. I kept telling myself that there had to be some type of an explanation for it, but I certainly couldn't find one, and even to this day, I can't explain what happened.
You can hear the fear and excitement in his voice as he describes the lights moving through the trees. Or he said it looked like an eye with a red light in the center. These two cases, Phoenix and Rendlesham, show that these objects can be massive or small, but they always leave people changed. They are not just lights in the sky. They are physical machines that interact with our world. What most people do not realize is that the government often tries to explain these things as astronomical events. For starters, they called the Rendlesham lights a lighthouse. But a lighthouse does not fly through a forest and land on the ground. It is a ridiculous explanation that ignores the testimony of highly trained military personnel. These men were trained to identify every type of aircraft and weapon in the sky. If they say it was a UFO, we should probably listen to them. The Phoenix lights and the Rendlesham incident are two sides of the same coin. One happened in public, and one happened in secret, but both involved technology that we still do not understand today. It is not that simple, though, because these sightings are still happening. Tactical units facing unknown tech. Europe has hosted its own share of incredible sightings involving the highest levels of military authority, specifically during the massive UFO wave that gripped Belgium between 1989 and 1990. Thousands of witnesses reported seeing large, black triangles equipped with 3 bright lights on the corners. These objects remained silent and possessed the ability to hover in place before accelerating at speeds that would physically crush a human pilot. The Belgian Air Force treated these reports with a level of transparency rarely seen in government institutions, deploying F-16 fighter jets to intercept the craft. The resulting radar locks provided chilling data. The objects shifted from 5,000 to 10,000 feet in less than a second, performing maneuvers that defy known laws of inertia and physics. When the military eventually held a press conference to release the radar data, they admitted they had no explanation for what had occurred. This honesty is an anomaly compared to typical government obfuscation. While some skeptics pointed toward secret U.S. a stealth aircraft like the F-117 Nighthawk, that theory fails to account for the silent propulsion and hovering capabilities reported by police officers, engineers, and families across the country. If these crafts did not belong to any terrestrial power, we have to consider the more unsettling theories. One possibility is that the Belgian triangles were not solid vehicles at all, but rather solid light projections, a form of advanced holographic technology used to test the psychological and technical response times of NATO defenses. However, a more radical theory suggests these objects are part of a breakaway civilization. This hypothesis argues that a secret group of humans, perhaps dating back to the mid-20th century, have achieved a massive technological leap in physics and propulsion and has operated independently from any recognized nation ever since. Under this view, the triangles are not alien, but rather the product of a hidden human elite using the rest of the world as a testing ground for their atmospheric experiments. This pattern of high-altitude anomalies transitions into the more intimate and terrifying case of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. While driving through the mountains of New Hampshire, they encountered a disc-shaped craft hovering just above the trees. Barney, observing through binoculars, reported seeing figures in the windows. Following a period of 2 hours of missing time, they used hypnosis to recover memories of being taken inside the craft for medical examinations by small, gray beings. Betty drew a star map she claimed to have seen inside the ship, which researchers later correlated with the Zeta Reticuli system, a star system not widely understood at the time. This case shifted the UFO phenomenon from a curiosity in the sky to a direct intrusion into human life. The Hill abduction opens the door to the zoo hypothesis, which suggests that Earth is essentially a nature preserve or a laboratory. In this scenario, the visitors are not explorers, but rather curators or genetic gardeners who have been monitoring the development of human DNA for millennia. A wilder theory posits that the entities reported by the Hills are not from another planet at all, but are actually chrononauts, future humans who have traveled back in time. And their interest in our biology might stem from a future where the human race has become genetically stagnant or physically degraded, and they are returning to the past to harvest pure DNA to save their own timeline. This would explain why their examinations often focus on the reproductive and nervous systems. The physical reality of these encounters is reinforced by the Kecksburg crash of 1965. A fireball seen across several states ended with an object crashing into a Pennsylvania forest. Initial witnesses described a metallic, acorn-shaped craft about the size of a small car, inscribed with strange symbols around its base that resembled hieroglyphs or runic script. The military arrived almost instantly, cordoned off the area, and hauled the object away on a flatbed truck, later claiming it was merely a meteor. Meteors, however, do not possess structural integrity or inscribed language. The Kecksburg object bears a striking resemblance to Die Glocke, or the bell, a rumored experimental propulsion device from the occult-leaning research wings of the Third Reich. This leads to the Operation Paperclip theory, suggesting that advanced Nazi technology was captured and refined by the U.S. military, leading to accidental crashes of experimental anti-gravity prototypes. When we connect the dots between the Belgian triangles, the Hill abduction, and the Kecksburg crash, a disturbing picture emerges. Some researchers suggest that these sightings are part of a control system, a theory proposed by Jacques Vallée, which argues that the phenomenon acts as a mechanism for social engineering. And by appearing in different forms throughout history, from angels and fairies to modern-day aliens, the phenomenon may be subtly shifting human consciousness and culture toward a specific, unknown goal. Another theory suggests we are dealing with ultra-terrestrials, beings that share our planet, but reside in a parallel dimension or a different frequency of reality. They may have always been here, living in the depths of our oceans or within the Earth's crust, emerging only when our technology begins to interfere with their own environment. Whether these objects are the tools of future humans, interdimensional residents, or a breakaway human elite, the consistency of the reports suggests a reality far more complex than simple extraterrestrial visitation. And the military's obsession with recovering this technology implies they are not just hiding the truth to prevent panic, but because they are engaged in a clandestine arms race to master the physics of the universe itself. How would our lives change if we finally found out these visitors have been living among us all along? This mystery is just starting to reveal its darkest secrets. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.